Join me as we talk all things true crime.
Made contact and shattered.
Liberty, the missing 4-year-old. The parents have called the NSF, but the mother has went for a walk. Came home, now they can't find her. They've been yelling for her.
Turn it over to another agency. Let's get some help.
Where are your kids? They've been missing for 4 months. You have nothing to say? You're over here in Hawaii? Chad, where are Lori's kids?
4 were stabbed multiple times and were likely asleep during the attack. Some had defensive wounds.
Most of them had just like one that was the lethal stab wound.
Good morning, everybody. How's everybody doing? I'm just going to check with chat to make sure the camera is working appropriately. Good morning, Candy Kane and Ava and Melmac. Hi, Karen. Just waiting for the okay from chat. Okay, thank you, Karen. It's good to see everybody. If you've followed me from the Idaho 4 case, I've not stopped covering it, obviously without new information coming out. I've moved on to this current trial that's been taking place, the Alex Murdaugh trial. So we want to know who exactly killed Paul and Maggie Murdaugh. So that's what we're going to be covering in between updates from Idaho 4 and other true crime cases. So thank you for being here. Hello, Adrian. Give me a second and I will rent you. And I appreciate all my moderators and everyone being here. So I think we should just kind of get into it because court starts at what, 9:30. Okay, Ashley's been watching the trial. I know Karen's been watching. So yeah, Florida, I will fill you in the best I can. I was going to play the News Nation like recap episode, but it was like 45 minutes. And I don't know, it's just, things are traveling really quick in this case already because it's already been a week of trial. So things are just happening quickly. So let me just get my little recap thing going for you guys and we'll just start playing some videos. So first I'll put together one that I edited myself with just a little bit of a recap, and then it'll go into parts of last week of the trial where they just talk about the crime scene. So I just wanted to highlight those aspects in case you missed it. And then I want to bring you over to a News Nation video that took place last night, so it's kind of new. And then I think that the best place to start is just listening and watching Alex's police interview. I know you guys have probably watched it. I want to break it down and kind of react to it with you guys. So thank you for being here, guys.
Alex Murdaugh and Maggie met at the University of South Carolina. Maggie was in a sorority. They married in 1993. In 1994, Alex graduated law school. In 96, Buster, their firstborn, was born. 3 years later, in 99, Paul was born. The Murdaugh family has served 3 generations as solicitors, which is similar to a district attorney position. Paul Murdaugh, the youngest, was 22 years old when he was shot and killed. Paul is said to have been a privileged Southern boy who loved the outdoors. On February 24th in 2019, Paul was involved in a boating accident which killed a classmate of Paul's named Mallory Beach. At the time of his death, Paul was facing charges for that death. On Monday, June 7th, Alex calls 911 at 10 p.m. after arriving at his 17-acre property at 9 p.m. where he found his wife and son's bodies. It took 20 minutes for first responders to arrive at the scene. It was also raining the time that first responders arrived. The first responders noted that Alex's clothes were dry and his knees weren't wet at all, despite claiming that he had checked their pulse. There's something else that's puzzling too. There is a lack of blood on Alex. A strange fact that his defense team is using as a strong argument. Could he have changed? And what is the motive?
The doghouse that's just outside that overhang, and Maggie's body is lying there underneath that canopy. The kennels are in the background.
How did
you discover Paul's body or observe Paul's body?
He was, when we arrived, he was still covered with a pink sheet, but we could tell he was lying face down just outside the feed room.
How did Paul fall?
Face down at an angle outside the feed room.
On what?
On his hands and arms.
Okay. But his face hit what?
The gravel.
Mr. Griffin asked you about how many times the defendant, Richard Alexander Murdaugh, had mentioned to turn his son Paul's body on page 2 of the transcript or toward the front. Actually, I think I tried to turn Paul over first. You remember him saying that?
Yes.
You know, I tried to turn him over, and I don't know, I figured it out.
Yes.
And his cell phone popped out.
Correct.
And I tried to do something, thinking maybe, but then I put it back down.
Correct.
Were his words, I think I tried to turn him over.
Yes.
And later on, I tried to turn him, and then I tried to check him.
Correct.
I tried to turn him.
Correct.
He asked you about the sheet on the body. Did you see the front or the top of Paul's head?
I did.
Okay. And he asked you about the sheet over that body. I want to ask you about the sheet. When you saw Richard Alexander Murdaugh, did he have a sheet over him?
He did not.
Could you see his face, his hands, his body, his pants, and his shirt?
I could.
Did he look like somebody who had just changed his clothes?
Yes.
Basis for the objection.
No basis for that opinion.
Response, Mr. Meadows.
I couldn't hear what he said. I'm sorry.
No basis for that opinion.
Did those clothes appear to be fresh?
They did.
Like they just come out of the laundry?
They could be.
No objection, Your Honor.
Objection's overruled.
So that was a little clip from last week in the trial. Let me switch up my screen. And yes, I agree. Somebody has said that 45-minute episode on News Nation was by far one of the best recap episodes. It really was. Let me switch up and play the 911 call and a little bit of this court TV thing, because it also helps paint a picture for those who are new to the case, like Florida bass fishing. And also another thing I wanted to say is I'm working on a special for the Idaho 4. It's going to be an edited episode, sort of like my own version of the 2020 or the Dateline. So it's going to take me some time to put it together. But like I said, we're waiting on updates anyways in that case. So I will be working on that behind the scenes. I just didn't want to leave anyone hanging who started following the channel because of that. So thank you again. Hi, Justice Serve Daily. It's good to see you.
Monday, June 7th, 2021, when
Can you guys can you guys hear it okay?
About this viral coffee replacement.
Also, while we wait for this ad, who thinks, and I've seen somebody in chat saying that they thought that the defense is already doing a good job raising raising doubt. And I definitely agree. I want to know how you guys are feeling about everything so far. I think that I don't know who said it in chat. I'm sorry, I was scrolling quickly, but I do agree that the defense is working their butt off for to raise doubt. Am I frozen now, or we're good? Eva said I'm frozen, but in a cute pose. Great. All righty. So either way, I do think, if you guys were hearing me, I do think that they're raising doubt. And I don't know. I need to see more. I need to see. I do believe that Alec is involved, but I mean, I just, being new to the case too, I need to see a little bit more details. And it looks like he changed his shirt, and the phone datas weren't matching up to when he said he got there, etc. So we'll get into all that too. So let me just play this little segment about the 911 call.
brutally shot behind this outbuilding on this sprawling 1,700-acre Murdaugh property. Alec Murdaugh told police he arrived after 9 p.m., found the bodies, and called 911.
County 911, what's your emergency? This is Alec Murdaugh at 4147 Moselle Road. I need the police to answer immediately. My wife and child shot badly.
It was just after 10 p.m. when Alec Murdaugh made his 911 call. It was raining. It took first responders almost 20 minutes to arrive at the remote location.
It's 4147 Moselle Road. I've been up to it now. It's bad.
Okay.
Oh.
Okay, and are they breathing?
No, ma'am.
Okay, and you said it's your wife and your son?
My wife and my son.
Police documents show that less than a minute after the crime scene was secured, responding officers requested that the coroner be notified. According to the indictment, Maggie Murdaugh was shot with a rifle and Paul Murdaugh was killed with a shotgun.
So for those new to the case, that's just a little piece of information that, just keep in mind or write down as a note. There's shot with separate weapons.
Alec Murdaugh is known to own both types of weapons. Standing outside the front gate of the Murdaugh estate more than a year after the murders, the grounds are overgrown, but it's so peaceful and quiet here in this rural area, standing in stark contrast to the chaos of June 7th, 2021. A two-lane road runs by the Murdaugh property on Moselle Road. The area around it, woods and low-lying wetlands. The shooting deaths of Maggie and Paul Murdaugh threw a spotlight on the rural counties that make up the 14th Judicial Circuit in South Carolina's Low Country, where the Murdaugh name is well known.
Everybody knows the Murdaughs. It's a household name that's been here forever.
For 87 consecutive years, 3 generations of Murdaughs served as the solicitor, which, like a district attorney, is the area's top prosecutor. But Alec broke with the family tradition and stayed in private practice instead of pursuing a career of public service.
When you have a family that is so powerful and has so much influence, it's easy to go off the rails a little bit.
Prosecutors say that Alec Murdaugh was leading a dangerous double life for at least 10 years before the murders of his wife and son, that he was so deeply in debt and had stolen millions from his law firm and clients, and that Paul's 2019 boat crash was threatening to collapse his financial house of cards.
So I just want to pause it there because they're kind of explaining a little bit of why there's motive to kill his son. So we touched on it briefly earlier in chat about how, or earlier in that pre-recorded thing, that his son was involved in a deadly boating crash accident where a young girl died. So what ends up happening is that family for Mallory Beach, that's her name, decided, I'm going to sue them for wrongful death. So they were in the proceedings and workings on suing the family for wrongful death because of what ended up happening that night when she died. And what I think the fear and what the prosecution is trying to say as motive is, if he was going to be sued for that death, obviously all his financial stuff would be looked into, and all that would be discovered, that for years and years he had been sneaking and stealing money every which way, pretty much. It's just an endless list of ways that he was scamming and just scheming. So that is pretty much where a little bit of motive and what the prosecution is trying to say would have been the reason why he did this to his son, Paul. So I want to know your guys' thoughts. Do you feel like that has something to do with it? This guy apparently would save his butt any which way he could. He was facing a lot of years in prison if his financial crimes were discovered, and all of that just would have happened right as they were looking through the financial stuff because of that wrongful death lawsuit. Yes, Karen, that's also correct. 3 days before Paul's trial was to start is when these murders took place also. So before all that was put out into the media and the news, and his son was in court and just shaming the family, he gets killed. So that comes into play because the police interview that we're going to watch, you hear Alec kind of sway the investigation right off the bat in a way that he's kind of trying to say that this must be connected to that boating accident. My son had been beat up and slapped. You'll see in the whatchamacallit, the police interview we'll watch. So yeah, just keep that in mind. And thank you for being here for those who have joined. I did just remember, though, I wanted to thank somebody sent me a PayPal over the weekend. And also Seth Huston had a birthday yesterday. He's a subscriber of mine, been here since the Watts days. I wanted to wish him a happy birthday. And Jill, her last name starts with a P. I don't want to put her whole name out there, but she sent me a Cash App. So I wanted to thank her for that. And then my friend Brooks, who's a subscriber and a longtime supporter, just had massive surgery. So I just wanted to send well wishes to her too. So thanks for being here, everybody. Please hit like. Yeah, exactly, Ashley Oaks. The first thing he kind of brought up was the boating accident. And like, you would just think he would just be in complete shock and, confusion. But yet he was just already had like an idea of why this would have happened and tells the cops that. So let's keep going, guys. Do you guys know what time court starts? Because if I have the time, I will watch a little bit with you guys, but obviously can't sit here all day.
Pros knows that your hair is unique to you. I've got curly hair.
This is a white-collar case that culminated in murder. Why would this particular individual murder his own wife and son? And the answer is because it allowed him to escape the accountability that was coming upon him that he's never had to deal with in his entire life.
His defense team says Alec had no reason to murder Maggie and Paul, and that the state's case is a rush to judgment.
This is not a game. It's his life. It's justice. It's the quality of justice in this courtroom and this state, and it ain't a game.
Day one of jury selection. Let's go right out to Court TV legal correspondent Chanley Painter joining us live from outside the courthouse.
Okay, so that was an older segment. I just wanted to play like the 911 call and give a little background. I'm just going to switch up my screen and get into the police interview. And for those who have seen this, I've watched it a little bit, a few times. I just want to go through it, and I think it's one of the best places to start for those who are new to the case. So it took 20 minutes for first responders to get there. He says he got to the property, not the kennels where they were found, but he says he was there at 9. And then the 911 call takes place around 10. To me, this seems like there's a bit of a timeline discrepancy. Oh, wait a minute. I want to play this one first. This was new and gave like good background for people who are new to this. So it was raining also when first responders arrive. Okay. So he says that he turned his son over. His phone falls out his back pocket. He was checking to see if they were breathing. But when cops arrived there, Paul is laying on his stomach, his face, and he's like laying on his arms. So did he really even try and turn him over? What do you guys think? Because remember, they're also saying that Alec had no blood on him, which they're arguing would have happened if you try to turn somebody over, you're touching them, their brain matter and all that is everywhere. I'm sorry, guys, but it gets into the details a little bit. But the other thing that they're trying to say looks like Alec could have changed his clothing is the fact that it was raining and his knees were completely dry, which, if you're bending down to check somebody or to flip somebody over, like he said, you would think that there'd be a little bit of wetness on the knees. So Justice Serve Daily is saying, nope, he didn't check if they were okay. Karen doesn't think he checked. Kib Kitty, good to see you. Yeah, I think that it's a facade. So let's listen to this. It's a forensic scientist expected to take the stand this week in the trial. So they're just talking a little bit about that on News Nation. This was from last night.
Well, tomorrow, a forensic scientist will take the stand in Alex Murdaugh's double murder trial, and she's expected to answer questions from defense attorneys. Emotions were certainly high during the first week of the.
Thank you, Seagate, and it's good to see you. Yeah, that's the other thing is there was water all over too, and they were saying like possibly it looked like maybe somebody used like a hose to like spray the area down, or it just was puzzling to them that Paul was also on top of a bit of water. So it was raining, there was water everywhere, there's blood everywhere, and Alec is completely dry and clean. Melmac said, I tend to feel Alec hosed himself off there in the dog kennel. And the ballistics test, I guess they tested his clothing for the gunshot residue, and it came back clean, like he didn't have any. And then they had to test it again, if I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong. And then the second time they checked it, there was like a little bit of residue on the inside of his shirt. So okay, yeah, they found gunshot residue on his seatbelt. Thank you, Ashley. I forgot about that. And that's the thing, guys, is I'm also new to, I followed this case through the headlines. So there's a lot to take in. So I really appreciate you guys walking through all this and going through all this. So April, the rain, the time that it started raining has been kind of shaky for me too. She said, but I thought it didn't start raining until after the murders. I think that's correct. I think that the rains did kind of start coming down like when he was like on 911 and they were all showing up. But again, I don't know. They've talked a lot about the weather, and it seems as though they're stating that it just was raining that night. I don't know. We should look into the time exactly. Sprayed his naked body down, Seagate says. I mean, it's very possible. It had been drizzling before, Karen said. Okay, see, that's the thing is I have heard like different things all about the weather that day. So it's an interesting element, especially the water aspect. Hold on.
High-profile trial, there were fiery opening statements and testimonies from first responders. And during a testimony, a detective says there was no visible blood on Murdaugh the night his son and wife were shot and killed in 2021. Now, the death of the family's housekeeper, Gloria Satterfield.
Okay, yes, and let me just pause you real quick. Florida Bass Fishing, if you're still listening, there's another death that's connected to them. It's their housekeeper who was basically their nanny. She helped raise the boys. She was there for many years behind the closed private doors of their house. So who knows what types of things she witnessed or heard or saw. And she was a loyal worker for them. But she ends up falling down the stairs and dying. So that's just another thing that's kind of added to this. So I just wanted to lay that out there in case anyone didn't know about that. But yeah, and yes, it did start trickling after the murders, but this large amount of water is just surrounding Paul's body, and that's what they're describing at the crime scene, and it's suspicious. The ground was soft, not overly muddy, but wet from a recent rain event. Yes, they reopened her case, and they've reopened another case, the gentleman who went to school with the boys too, who was killed in the road under, I don't know, it's suspicious in my opinion, but we'll get there too. Yeah, that's the thing, Sword of Spirit, killing your family to just pay debts, including yourself. I know they have a lot to lay out, I think. Yep, there's just so much scamming with this guy. That's the thing.
Helped unravel one of the biggest pieces of Murdaugh's money-making scheme.
Ma'am, she can't talk.
Okay, do you know?
She's cracked her head and there's blood on the concrete and she's bleeding out of her left ear.
According to the family, she died after a family dog jumped on her at the top of the stairs, causing her to fall. Her family says Murdaugh suggested that Satterfield's son sue him for insurance money, and they were supposed to get $4.3 million. But they say they never got that money and Murdaugh stole it. Murdaugh was eventually disbarred as a lawyer after the housekeeper's family got a confession of judgment from Murdaugh for the entire money that was owed. And that started to unravel what else Murdaugh was hiding. Now, their attorney, Eric Bland, was in the courtroom watching opening statements and testimony, and he joins us live tonight to share his insight from week one. Thank you so much for being here.
Good evening. How are you?
Thank you. Doing well. And we know tomorrow's Murdaugh's defense attorneys, they will begin cross-examination. What hurdles will the prosecution likely face?
Well, before I get started into that, I do want to say that we also recovered in excess of $7.5 million for the boys. And
Yeah, I want to pause it right there. Seagate, yeah, blame the dog. And that's the thing that's kind of questionable too about that. So she was at the house almost every single day, I'm sure, and like knew the family, knew the pets, I'm sure. Why was the dog jumping up as soon as she gets to the top of the stairs to jump up on her? I'd love to know if that was a puppy. I need more details on that because that's just interesting. And the other thing that I find interesting too is, you know, while these murders allegedly are happening, Alec is claiming that he was taking a nap. Is that correct, guys? So, you know, it just takes me back to other cases that we've followed. And if you know the interview room, you know that Chris McDonough is a retired homicide detective. And he talked extensively about the Summer Wells case, the 5-year-old who's missing. She's still missing. And he pretty much, I remember talking or him doing a live chat, and he was just talking about his experience. And he was just saying, you know, because the grandmother in the Summer Wells case says she was taking a nap when Summer went missing. And I remember him saying, you know, the nap excuse and I was sleeping excuse is always one of the number one like alibis that perpetrators use. And so it's hard to think like, is this just Alec telling the truth, or is this Alec just following in the steps of all these other people who just lie and they use that excuse? So I just think that it's interesting that, like other cases that we've studied, this one has somebody who's taking a nap during a crime too.
in addition to that $4.3 million judgment, and that $4.3 million judgment was used to get Alex disbarred. As for the trial tomorrow, Dick Harpootlian is going to begin his cross-examination of SLED agent Worley. She was the witness who basically had all the evidence admitted through her. So Dick is going to attack the evidence, the crime scene. As I've said a number of times, I've never met a defense attorney who didn't have criticism of a crime scene. Every defense attorney is going to criticize, no matter how much evidence is gathered, no how much they secure and preserve the crime scene. So Harpootlian's job this week is to whittle away at all of the evidence of footprints, the evidence of blood on the seatbelts, the evidence of GSR on the blue coat. We learned in the opening statement that Paul was shot first. So I think what he's going to try to do is show that this type of evidence gathering and analysis is junk science. Now, it's funny, defense attorneys say that if it hurts their client, whatever the experts will testify is junk science, but voice recognition, GSR, blood analysis, as well as phone mapping has been around for so long. I think the most persuasive piece of evidence so far is the fact that Alex was placed at the dog kennels 6 minutes before the phones went dead on Maggie and Paul. And more importantly, it looks like that there were two outfits that he was wearing that evening. One on a Snapchat that was done an hour before the murders allegedly took place. And then he was totally clean when the police arrived after he called 911. And he told both the 911 operator and then the interviewers that was released that he turned Paul over to check him for a pulse. And, you know, it's very gruesome. Paul's head was blown off. His brain was at his feet. There was blood everywhere. And for him to turn over somebody that would be considered, you know, dead weight, and pardon the pun, he would be full of blood and mud and everything. And he was totally pristine clean.
Now, I just have to pause it there because of two things. So they're trying to say that there is video of this Snapchat where it's showing Alec in different clothing than when 911 arrives. So for those who don't know, Paul took a Snapchat, like an hour before the murders took place. And you can, we've heard that there's audio of Alec being at the kennels. So him saying that he was at the house area sleeping around that time, and then they're claiming, we haven't heard it or seen the Snapchat yet, but they're claiming that he's on video, or he's heard on video at the kennels. So clearly that's a key piece of evidence. Exactly, Melmac. It is crucial, that Snapchat. And I find it interesting, and I don't know if you guys heard, but during the 911 call, or maybe it was during the police interview, he says something about his phone popped out of his pocket, and I picked it up thinking like maybe, but then I thought no, or something along the lines, not verbatim, not exact quote, but it's like, what was he thinking that he was going to do with Paul's phone? Or is he explaining the fact that maybe he tried to unlock it? Maybe he wanted to delete that Snapchat video. I'm not sure, but I found it interesting that he said something about like wanting to do something with Paul's phone and then decided not to. It's like, what were you going to do? Like, and then, this guy's just describing how pristine and clean Alec was after claiming that he had, tried to turn his son over, and his son is in a condition that is just, I wrote down, I think it said even in the trial, Paul's death was horrific. You almost think about Jackie Kennedy and her clothing. Remember when JFK was shot right next to her, and that was a gunshot to the head, and that produced a lot of the same stuff that they're saying was at the scene here, that type of combustion. And her clothing that day was completely blood ridden, so it's hard to imagine that he's over there bending down, turning his son over, and he's completely clean and dry, even the knees being wet. So I thought that was interesting, and we will find out what's in the Snapchat video. Will it be Alec on video? Will it just be the voice? I don't know. They're kind of alluding to there being some sort of video.
So that's a tough hurdle that Harpootlian's going to have to overcome.
That's horrifying details. First of all, by GSR, you mean gunshot residue. Is that right?
Yes, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yes,
No,
gunshot
I
residue.
appreciate that. What do you make of that detail of his son being put in a dog kennel before his death?
Well, it's not a dog kennel. The dog kennel's next to it. He was in the closet, and I've been out there to Mizell, and there's about 15 different dog kennel runs, and a lot of people put their dogs there. In the kennel, they had feed and different things, and that's really where Paul was at the time he was shot.
And we know emotions were high in that courtroom, and many times Murdaugh was seen crying. Were you looking at the jury at all? Did you see if that landed? Did the tears seem genuine? And we're looking at him right now. Do you think it will have any impact on the jury?
I think it would and could. I also think that when his family came in, when the jury was seated, and his entire family sat behind him and continues to sit behind him, even though the state has spent millions of dollars in the prosecution of this case to vindicate the deaths of Maggie and Paul, the fact that the entire family is sitting on the defense side has to be noticed by the jury.
Thank you for watching. Go to News.
Yes, that's true. Butterfly kisses. Jackie K also tried to pick up the president's brains while he was in the car. She was in shock. Yes. And speaking of shock, I have stuff written down about what the first responders were saying last week in trial about Alex's state when they arrived there. They said that he was standing away from the scene, like he wasn't trying to be near the bodies at all. That was just something that I had noted and that they noted. They said that he was upset, but they didn't think that they saw panic, or they didn't see tears. They said he was out of breath and sweaty. He never asked for oxygen to help him breathe from like the first responders being there. Let's see what else I wrote down. It appears that they believe Maggie was running away from her attacker. So they're basically saying the defense is going to tear apart the crime scene and the everything that was done there, procedures. Were they wearing booties? Was it contaminated in any way because there was no booties used? Lots of time passed before it was closed off, apparently, and before SLED showed up. And SLED is like the state entity of law enforcement. So in New York, we have New York State Troopers. In Colorado, they have CBI. That's what SLED is there. So him hiring somebody to kill him so that his son could get Buster could get the insurance money. I mean, that's just a whole other element to all this that we haven't even really touched on. So yeah, I wrote down that Alec called his lawyer also. So when we play his video with the police, we're gonna. Okay, I don't want to freeze up on you guys, so I'll turn my camera off. Thank you for letting me know, guys. So. Yeah, he called his lawyer and had his lawyer there as he talked to the police in the car that we're going to play. And I want to know what you guys would have done. People might think, oh man, he's guilty. He called his lawyer to be there. But at the same time, he himself is a lawyer, and I'm sure he's aware, like, well, I mean, I should have my legal representation here, So I'm just curious your guys' opinion about the lawyer being there as he talked to the police. He covers the monitor during the trial when they're showing the crime scene and stuff, as to not look at it. So the defense is going to use that Snapchat video and, say they were having a great time that day and they're a great father and son dynamic and they're a happy family. Alec had no reason to do this. So that's going to be the state or the defense's whatchamacallit. Thank you. Melissa J thinks lawyer is always a smart thing. I think so too. So yeah, the defense is just going to use the Snapchat stuff to kind of paint it as like, ooh, okay, they were having a good day, etc. But at the same time, like, even if they try to say like he could never have done this to his own family, look, they were having a great time and they're happy and they had no problems and they weren't arguing. Even if they try to go that route, if Alec is at the kennels before the time they said that he was there, I mean, that is a huge red flag. He's supposed to be napping, etc. at this time. So we'll see how the Snapchat stuff plays out. All right, let me switch my screen up and get going with this interview. Again, I know you guys might have seen it, came out over the weekend, but I do think for those who are new to the case, and including myself, I'd consider myself sort of new, this is a good place to start. So here we go. And remember, this is his reactions on camera, on video. He just came to the scene, seeing his wife and son that way in a horrific manner. And this is, his body language. This is his facial expressions. One thing I noticed right off the bat, super white, crisp shirt. I wish I could see like his pants, like standing up. Because you know how like when you wear khakis or when you have pants on and you've worn them all day, you get like the creases up near like the top of your thigh, like from sitting up and like scrunching and stuff. I'd be very curious to know like what his pants looked like. They're saying that his knees were dry. That was like a description that they had stated, and that he looked completely pristine and clean. The other thing is, he takes a nap. Did he wake up from the nap and change into something? Like, I just want to know more details about his reasons for looking so clean, because that's what the defense is going to have to keep trying to explain, I think, because they're using a lot of him looking clean as suspicious. And we showed earlier in the chat or in the live stream that the first responder, a detective, one of them, was basically saying like it looked to her like he could have gone and changed. And of course his defense was like, objection, she has no basis for that type of opinion. And then the judge allowed it. So he said, objection overruled. And Karen, yes. And you know what? While we watch this, and I've tried to as well, he doesn't have like, I know it's gross, but like pit stains, like when you're sweating in a white shirt and like, I don't know, he's just looking very dry. Like as far as like he looks clammy, but the shirt just looks dry. So I definitely agree with you there. And that's the thing, the real Dank Williams, the nap thing, and then him going to see his mother again. I'm confused about this timeline of stuff with him. So guys, help me understand that, because yes, he did claim that he went to see his mother who has dementia, and she's part of his alibi.
All right, Mr. Murdaugh, you state your full name for me, please.
Richard Alexander Murdaugh.
And spell your last name so I get it correct.
Murdaugh.
So this interview is 3 hours after they get to the crime scene, Melmac. And it's like, then wouldn't you think even like the collar of his shirt should look a little more damp or like something, you know? I don't know. It's hard to kind of argue what clothing should look like on a day like this, but.
All right. And you go by Alec?
Yes, sir.
And date of birth, Mr. Murdaugh?
May 27th, 1968.
And a good phone number for you.
803-942-1227.
All right, sir. And sir, what was your name?
Yes, Kid Kitty. He's a lawyer, so he knows how to act, when to cry, etc. And that's the part that's like really you have to think about too. Is like so many people and so many, specials on this show have said the same thing. He's a manipulative person. He's manipulative. They keep using that over and over. And it's like, I really am starting to like think that those opinions aren't just somebody's opinions. Like, I think that it's true. I think that he knows, like, even during court, when to leave his face open for the jury to see him, quote unquote, crying. There's times where it looks like he's crying, but there's like nothing wet coming down his face. And it's like always at the times, when they're talking about Maggie or his son. And it's just like, you just know that like he's not covering his face crying because he wants the jury to see him crying. It's all these little tricks that he just knows about. Thank you, Pizza Chemist, for becoming a member. I'm so happy to have you here. Yeah, Joe said he doesn't seem genuine to me. I mean, his family more than 50% of his family is gone at this point. It's like, it's hard to put myself in someone else's shoes because everyone reacts differently. But like any other thing that we've seen about a parent in a situation like this, I mean, they're way more distraught. But again, everyone acts differently. So it's very hard to just say he's not acting right. They say that one of the professions that psychopaths excel at is attorneys. A certain emotional detachment is required. That makes sense. And that just reminded me of this new documentary out. I think it's on Netflix, guys. The Woodstock 99. I watched it last night. And if you want to talk about psychopaths, and they say the same thing for CEOs, you guys need to watch that documentary. It's crazy.
Yeah, Danny Henderson. Okay. All right. As I stated, I'm David Owen in Lower Rutland with Colleton County, and I'm with SLED. I hate to have to do this.
I understand. Yeah. I totally understand. Yeah. So you don't have any problem with it.
So
a new world is here, my brothers. Introducing MGM Plus, the legacy.
Start at the top, take your time.
Like when I came back here, I mean, I pulled up and I could see him, and I knew something was bad. I ran out. I knew it was really bad.
And the other thing that I'd like you guys to kind of pay attention to is the eye glancing that he does at the detective. You know, is he buying it? Does he believe what I'm saying? You know, it's throughout this whole thing. Just watch. It's like he wants to know if he's fooling him or not. That's just my opinion. But yes, please hit like.
My boy over there, I could see it was.
Sorry.
And I could see his brain on his. And I ran over to Maggie, and actually, I think I tried to turn Paul over first. You know, I tried to turn him over, and I don't know, I figured it out. His cell phone popped out of his pocket. I started to try to do something with it, thinking maybe, but then I put it back down really quickly.
So I seen somebody saying in chat that they thought maybe that meant, you know, about the cell phone, that he was going to try and call 911 possibly with Paul's cell phone. I don't know what he meant by that. What do you guys think? And with the Snapchat thing coming into play, it's like, was that something that Alec was aware of? Was he not aware of that? I don't know. But thank you so much, Cement Shoes. Alex Murdaugh cries like Sally Field at the Oscars. You like me. You really like me. It's hard to watch during the trial. He's just, to me, it just looks way too fake. He has yet to ask for a tissue in the trial. I can't remember if he asked for a tissue at all during this, but like, what's going on with the tissue aspect? Like, people need to blow their noses when they're crying, for real. And Jesse, I'm not sure if they're going to do the Snapchat today. I'm not sure.
Then I went to my wife, and I mean, I could see.
Yeah, he has been doing a lot of rocking during court, self-soothing, you know, and that's the thing. It's like, why is he self-soothing? You know, it can go either way, for real.
Did you touch Maggie at all?
I did. I touched them both.
Okay.
I tried to take. I tried to do it as limited as possible, but I tried to take their pulse on both of them.
And that very well could be true. And when you think about it, it could be for reasons of innocence or reasons for, you know, he's checking to make sure they're dead. I hate to just go there, but just because he touched them to check their pulse, I mean, just look at him right now as I'm pausing this. Like, I don't see any wet tears on his face. But either way, it's just alarming. Yeah, Kate says no sniffling. I mean, it's bizarre. Nose and eyes always run red with tears, but not Alex. Yeah, and he is a drug user. Yeah, exactly, Kib Kitty. That's what the state is saying. You know, if he touched them and he claims he rolled Paul over and his phone popped out. I mean, Paul is 22 years old, right, guys? I mean, he's what, like 170? You know, that would have taken two hands, you know, a little bit of strength to kind of turn him over. And yet, like they're saying, he shows up, or they show up, and he's dry. The real Dank Williams, thank you. $2 super chat for premium subscription to YouTube. Yeah, I've been talking to the fiance about that. I don't know if it's on his honey-do list still or if he's just written off that request, but yeah, I need premium. Thank you so much for the super chat too.
And I called 911 pretty much right away, and she was very good.
911 was very good. Just such an odd thing to throw in there as he's like listing off the things that took place. I called 911 pretty much right away. And that's the thing is I'm hearing that, he's there at 9, but yet the 911 call comes at 10. Can you guys explain that to me? I really am confused by that. So I was hoping somebody had a little bit of clarification on that.
I talked to her. I told her I was going to get off the phone to call some family members. I did that.
And yeah, do you guys think that it's weird that during the 911 call, he says something to the operator about wanting to get off the phone with her? And this was before they even arrived, and to call his family members. Now, a lot of people were saying that's weird. Why was he in such a hurry to call family over there? So I'm curious your guys' thoughts.
And
what family members did you call?
I called my brother Randy, and I called my brother John, and I tried to call a little boy, real good friend that's right around the corner from here, but I didn't get him.
Yes, Queen Olive said that was really weird. I pretty much called 911 right away. It is kind of a weird phrase. Like, I pretty much, it's like you did or you didn't. So that sort of leaves room for some sort of time gap, for him to say, well, I said I pretty much called right away, not that I did call right away, or something will be argued to that effect, I assume. And yes, Caroline, unnecessary fluff when he says that the 911 operator was really good. Like, okay. That is weird. Shouldn't he be wanting to try and help or anything? Apparently, yeah, I mean, I don't know if she said, they asked him if they were breathing and stuff, and he says no. So I don't know. It's just bizarre, and then they show up. He has no blood at all on his shirt, but he tried to turn his son over.
What all was around Paul when you walked up?
Blood.
Anything else?
I mean, there were some body things, yes, sir.
I mean, like any other evidence? I know you said the phone fell out the pocket, but did you see anything else that didn't belong or shouldn't belong or that wasn't part of Paul?
No, sir. Not. No, sir.
How about Maggie?
No, sir.
You didn't see anything around them? What made you come out here tonight?
I went to, my mom's a late stage Alzheimer's patient. My dad's in the hospital. My mom gets anxious when she does. I went to check on them and Maggie. Maggie's a dog lover, and she fools with the dogs.
And see, he's got a perfect reason why Maggie's out there. She's a dog lover. It's just overselling it, in my opinion. And when I first watched this, I didn't think much of it. I'm like, okay. But now that the more I look at him and the more I'm listening, the more I'm like, he's just trying to sell some sort of narrative to this guy. So, he's explaining why Maggie was out there, etc. Well, she's a dog lover.
And I knew she'd gone to the kennel. I was at the house. I left the house and went to my mom's for just a little while. Tried to call her when I left. Texted her, no response. When I got back to the house was obviously nobody was in there. So.
And it's like that pause was like him trying to think like, okay, what next?
Figured they're still up here fooling around. Paul was gonna be getting set up to plant. Our sunflower seeds got sprayed and died, and he was refiguring to plant the sunflower seeds. So I came back up here and I drove up and saw and called.
Had Maggie and Paul been arguing over anything?
No.
Karen, I'm not sure about that. Karen said, but doesn't Maggie's friend say that Maggie was suspicious why he wanted her there? That I do not know and would be very interesting to find out. Didn't he say he went back to the house to get a gun in case the killer was still around? Yes. Yes, yes, yes. We will get there. And to me, Jesse, that is so bizarre because, you know, he's on the phone with 911 asking for help. She says they're on their way. And he says something about wanting to go to the house to grab a gun. And, you know, explains to the operator that he was going to make sure the officers knew that he was carrying one or whatever, you know, for safety reasons as they show up. But it's like, you're already calling 911. They're on their way. They have guns. They're law enforcement. Like, they're going to be there. To me, it's just sort of strange that he just felt the urge to go get the gun. And the thing about the gunshot residue is, like, even if you're in the vicinity of when a gun is fired, like nearby somebody, like, you could get the residue on you. So him being clean and maybe this time gap, you know, the prosecution is trying to say, like, oh no, he went and changed. You know, they're probably going to say he washed his hands or whatever. It's just weird to me that with 911 on the way, he felt like he needed to grab the gun. Like, you would think like he'd grab the gun and then, like, you know, hide away somewhere and call 911 or something. It just seemed like he wanted it on record, like on audio of him stating that he felt like he was in danger. Because again, he's going to say in this police interview that, you know, the boating accident that his son Paul was in caused a lot of enemies to come forward, and, you know, this is what this is about. They were trying to get back at him because of this boating accident. It killed this girl, blah blah blah. That's the narrative that he's going to try and paint. So while he's on the phone with 911, he wants it on record, and he wants it to kind of be like a paper trail, because remember, he's a lawyer, that he was in fear of his life at that time, that this had to be somebody other than him, because, you know, he felt the need to have to say, like, I'm going to go grab my gun. You know, it's just all like a painting a picture that's just not accurate to what's going on. It just looks good on paper.
What was their relationship like?
Wonderful.
Wonderful. How about yours and Maggie's?
Wonderful. I mean, I'm sure we.
Yeah. Glenjamin, that's a good point. Holding that gun, the one that he went to go grab, could have easily left gunshot residue on his hands. And I think that's why he grabbed it. And that would be perfect for, you know, explaining why there was this or that on him as far as like gunshot residue. Because even if you grab a gun that's recently fired, you're going to get the residue on your hands. So it's very interesting.
We had little things here and there, but we had a wonderful marriage, wonderful relationship.
And no crying when he's talking about his marriage and relationship. And yes, Karen, bullet casings were all over that property. And the other aspect that they have in this case, as far as I understand, is the ballistics test. Like, the property had casings and bullets that matched the ones on the victims. Like, I know that they were shot by different weapons, but pretty much one of the weapons used, and again, they didn't ever find the weapons, the murder weapons. The bullet casings had like an imprint on it that matched the ones that were already on the property. So pretty much Paul owns guns. He would shoot his guns on the property for shooting practice and for fun. And those shell casings had an imprint on them that matched the ones that they had found, like, throughout the investigation, the autopsies, etc. So they're trying to say that the guns that were used in the murders were the same guns that they owned. So they're trying to limit like what type of guns were used here, and it belongs to the same guns that were used on that property for shooting practice. So yeah, I wonder what he did with the guns too.
And yours and Paul's relationship?
As good as it could be.
How old is Paul?
22.
Okay. You know his date of birth?
I do. April 11th, 96 is his brother's. April 14th, 99 is Paul's.
How about, what's Maggie's full name?
Margaret Brandstetter Murdaugh.
And I'm also looking in my notes. It says from 8:09 to 9 p.m., Alex's phone is not active. So, you know, what is the reason why his phone just goes MIA around that time too? You know what I mean? Like just drops off the grid.
And her date of birth, sir?
September 15th, 1968.
Have y'all been having any problems out here? Trespassers, people breaking in?
None that I know of. The only thing that what comes to my mind is my son Paul was in a boat wreck.
And notice right away his body language starts blinking like more rapidly. It's just a split second. And then his knee kind of like rocking, like sort of how he is in court where he's kind of self-soothing, rocking a little bit. You know, he hasn't really even moved except to glance over at the detective and to lean forward with his crying face. And then here, as soon as he starts to paint the picture of what he thinks took place, and again, this is only a few hours after he discovered them dead. I would be so confused, like how and why did this happen? Yeah, he's looking for sympathy. He's lying. He's checking again, his eyes, that face. And good morning, CDT. It's good to see you. Yeah, just watch here. And we know that perpetrators in police interviews in other cases have said things or done things to kind of steer the investigation. You know, and right off the bat, he wants the detective to think, and he wants this on record that, you know, Paul's accident could be the reason all this took place. And it's only been a few hours since he discovered them. So with shock and all that, you know, he's already trying to paint, he already knows what happens pretty much. And he wants the detective to think that that's true, in my opinion.
I know of. The only thing that what comes to my mind is my son Paul was in a boat wreck.
Any problems out here? Trespassers, people breaking in?
None that I know of. The only thing that what comes to my mind is my son Paul was in a boat wreck a couple years ago. Mm-hmm. And there's been he was charged with being arrested for being the driver. There's been a lot of negative publicity about that. And there's been a lot of people online, just really vile stuff. But when Paul's out and about, I mean, people routinely, I don't think I know the full story. So I don't think they give it to me. But I mean, he's been punched and hit and just attacked a lot. So
punched and hit and just attacked a lot. So you know, it's just, he's like basically saying like, so that's what happened. That's why, case closed. You believe it, right? It's just like, what is the difference between getting punched and hit and attacked? You know what I mean? Like what he just said there is just like, kind of like, I don't know. It's puzzling. I'm not buying it. And here's the thing. Where the heck is the proof of all this? He says something about, you know, a couple weeks ago, he had a black eye, you'll hear. Okay, where's the proof? Where's the pictures of this black eye?
You know, but I mean, nothing like this.
Yeah. Any one person in particular or group of people?
I don't know.
That you could think of?
Not that I know, no, sir.
Has he, other than being assaulted, has he received any direct threats related to the boat accident?
Oh, yes. All the time he gets
recently?
Yes, sir. I mean, he gets them all the time.
Okay.
Kind of moving around a little bit, like getting comfortable. And he very well could have gotten threats. And thanks for becoming a member, Kate. We're happy to have you here. He very well could have had threats coming in, because that boat accident, you know, he was treated very carefully by law enforcement in that situation, and he was belligerent. Like, apparently the police report even stated that he was slapping around one of his friend's girlfriends. I think it was the one that passed away, Mallory. They said that when Paul was drunk, he would turn into an alter ego, and they called him Timmy. Like, it was just a very bad situation, and people really could have been giving him threats. But the thing is, do we have record of these threats? You know, that's going to be something that, if the defense is going to still use that narrative, you know, they better back it up.
He gets them all the time.
What kind of, I mean,
I'm gonna kick your ass, you know. I've never been privy firsthand, you know.
And here's the thing, if this whole, he's received threats, blah, 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 it's just so shaky that, like he said, like, I don't know things firsthand, or stuff like that. And it's like, then where did you come up with this scenario of why this must be why your son got shot? Just doesn't really make sense. Like, you're so adamant already to think that it's because of this, but yet you don't have any information to really give us. Yeah, exactly. I'm gonna kick your ass. I'll laugh you my ass off. Okay. Right. It just sounds so fake. Yeah, that's the thing. Kick your ass is different than I'm going to kill you and your mom. Exactly. It doesn't, like, 1 + 1 isn't really adding up to 2 there. Yeah, I'm not buying it. After unlocking Paul's phones, Alex alibi at being with his mom is blown out the water. Right? Because they're going to have the timestamp that he unlocked it.
Is that through social media or?
No, ma'am. It's mostly like if he goes out places is what, you know, what.
And that's the thing. Is it on social media? Because that detective knows, like, okay, good. We'll have a digital footprint of these threats. Perfect. That'll help. But of course, no, ma'am. How would you know that? You literally just said that you're not privy to some of this information, maybe, and firsthand information. It's like, you're not in your son's phone. How would you know that there's not stuff on there that says, like, it's like in his inbox or something? And then saying, like, no, man, it's in person. It's just very convenient. Like, oh, okay. So all this only took place for those who are in earshot of it. You know, it's just very shaky.
He goes out like somewhere. He's in college, so if he goes out, is what I understand.
Mm-hmm.
I can find out better details from some of his younger friends on that.
Who's his best friend?
His best friend in Colombia is Will's Chapman, Will Loving, Bobby Boyle. Bobby Boyle, Will Chapman, and Paul were getting ready to move into a house together in Colombia.
You said Will Chapman and Will Loving?
Will's with an S,
okay.
Chapman, and Will with an L, Loving.
Okay.
Around here, his best friends are clearly Nolan Tootin and Rogan Gibson.
Nolan Tootin?
Yes, sir.
And what was the other one? I'm sorry.
Rogan Gibson.
Have you talked with any of these guys tonight?
Talked with Nolan, yes, sir.
Is he out here?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I tried to call Rogan, was one of the people he's the boy that I told you lives around the corner.
Okay.
That's very, you know, he's just a good, helpful young man. You mind if I open the door really quickly?
Go right in. Do what you need to do. So is there anybody that you can think of that we need to talk to?
You know, flowers are proven by actual science to give you.
So, you know, it's just right now what we need to know is the timeline of when, 911 was called and they're discovered. He does make it seem like it's right away, but according to the phone records, it seems as though they're placing him there, and then 911 being called much later. Shay says he's full of poop, in my opinion. Agree.
I mean, I can't tell you anybody that I'm overly suspicious of off the top of my head.
Okay.
I mean, this is such a stupid thing. I'm even embarrassed to say it, but it just didn't make any sense. I just hired a guy out here, and he wasn't cutting the mustard, but I hadn't told him this yet. Paul's been working with him a lot. He killed the sunflower seeds in our dove field just recently, which is why Paul was here doing this. He told Paul a story the other day about how when he was in high school, he got in a fight with some black guys. And
okay, so now we're going to get some crazy theory, another theory that he has of why this could have happened. So just hold on to your pants, guys, and buckle your seatbelts. Yeah, exactly. There's nothing else to really say except the question marks. Yeah, so this is just another avenue that he's going to go down. And good morning, Max 2002, and everyone who has joined us. Thanks for being here.
FBI undercover team observed him fighting those guys and put him on an undercover team with 3 Navy SEALs, and that their job was to kill radical Black Panthers. And they did that from Myrtle Beach to Savannah. Now, I really don't think this guy, is probably the person, but that's just so friggin'.
Yeah, that's kind of far-fetched story.
It's weird, but he was off today.
Cap just puts it out there. Yeah, that's kind of a far-fetched story. Like, he's like, please don't waste my time with this anymore. And, just thinking about the scene of events that took place, well, the crime scene itself, they've said that it looked like Maggie was running away, and she was killed execution style. They're thinking like shot at, fell to the ground possibly, and then shot when she was on her knees or on the ground. Just, horrific. Now, Paul's, for me, it almost seems like he didn't see it coming, because they describe him as being face down, and like kind of laying on his arms, like he just fell right forward. You know what I mean? Like if you're dead weight and you fall forward, your arms are just going to go right underneath you. Whereas if he was running and had like his arms like kind of in movement, maybe they wouldn't have fallen like right underneath him. It's hard to say. But at the same time, his phone being in his pocket to me means he wasn't in fear to the point where he's like, I'm going to call 911 or I need to get on the phone. It's just, to me, I wonder if it was something where Paul had no idea it was coming. And then Maggie, obviously heard or saw something and then starts to run. Just makes no sense to me that there's 2 separate weapons. So they said that Paul was killed first. What is the time gap between the 2 victims? Does anyone know?
Okay.
He took his daddy to the doctor.
What's his name?
C.B. Rowe.
R-O-W-E?
Yeah, and I sent him a message to text me earlier today about sunflowers, and he called me back when I was on the way to my mom's house.
Did you talk to him at that time?
Briefly. I was on the phone with a lawyer friend of mine named Chris Wilson from Bamberg, so I told him I'd call him back tomorrow, see him in the morning.
When you briefly talked to Mr. Rowe, what was his demeanor or attitude? Or
I mean, it seemed normal. I mean, I asked him about the sunflowers, and so, I'm sure he's a little bit.
Where does he live?
I don't exactly know. Somewhere in in Bronson.
Okay. Do you have his phone number?
I do.
You got it with you, please, sir?
I do. You know, but I do think him and Paul got along pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't have, chat has just informed me, we don't know the exact time in between the deaths. Jesse said, I've never heard there was separate times for the victims. If I did, I don't remember. So I feel like just from what we know and what you guys know, it seems as though it was in a matter of seconds in between, right? Or maybe we can assume that. I don't know. But then it's like for him to switch weapons or whoever it is switch weapons. And again, guys, I'm not so sure that he didn't hire someone to do this. And I know that that's not the route that the prosecution is taking. They're trying to say it was Alex himself, blah, blah, blah. And like I said, I'm sort of new to all this, but I can't help but think like he seems like the type that would hire somebody to do this type of dirty work. But I know that that's not what the prosecution is going down, right, guys?
That's just really, really weird. All right. CB.
Right there in your lap.
Yeah, I know he called me, so I'll go to that. Okay.
843-540-9335. You need to get that phone on the charge, Alec, if you can.
Keeping your pearly whites pearly.
Is that an iPhone?
Yes, sir.
Watch your leg for a second, please.
Thank you.
When did you tell that story to Paul?
Sometime last week.
Okay.
Sometime last week.
Yes, Caroline, I agree. And this is the aspect of this that worries me. And I was sort of explaining this yesterday, like to my mom. She asked about the cases and stuff. And she follows, everything Nancy Grace covers, etc. So, I was saying to her, I'm like, I'm not so sure that like he's actually the killer. Like he might very well be connected. I feel that in my gut, but it's tough because just like Caroline said, she said, you're not wrong, ATS, like about the hired hit being a possibility, but it would be harder to prosecute if you added a hitman to the story with no proof. And that's the problem that I'm like worried about, is because I just feel like it could definitely go down the avenue of him getting off on this because there would be a bit of reasonable doubt. But it's just, I don't know. It's going to be difficult. I hate to say, I don't want to be negative about it, but it's just, I'm wondering, there is doubt in my mind about, I know he's involved, but the level of it is just kind of throwing me off a little bit.
My son Paul actually I really do not think, on all honesty, that it's him, but I know y'all got to check it out. But Paul was so taken aback by it.
And look at him just scrolling through his phone, like, and having this like conversation, like it's just like they're talking about like a basketball game that Paul was in or something. It's just like, yeah, and Paul, while he's scrolling, blah, blah, blah. It's just like, this just doesn't seem right. This doesn't seem like a normal reaction from a father who just stumbled upon that scene. Yeah, Jesse, he's deleting evidence. I was pondering, like, is he like trying to like do that? I don't know. Yeah, and plus he hired someone to kill him a year later. So exactly, Mary, that's where I'm all like, this is going to be interesting. And again, I do feel he has involvement. Yeah, it could play into his favor in the trial. I agree, unfortunately, but we'll see. We'll see what else they have against him.
That he sent, I'll find it. I got it on my phone. He recorded him saying bits and pieces of it.
Okay.
No. But for all his weirdness, I mean, I do think they they got along pretty good.
How long had he been working here?
I guess about 3 or 4 pay periods, so 8 weeks.
I just saw the lawyer in the back seat like take the biggest sigh, and he's like rubbing his face. The lawyer looks more distraught than Alec does. And earlier somebody had said something about him wearing shorts, and yes, he was wearing shorts. So when I had said earlier, he wasn't wet at all from leaning over, his knees were dry and clean, the detectives are stating. So I just wanted to reiterate, like, yeah, his pants wouldn't have been wet from bending over. It would be just, his knees or whatever, but they're stating it was completely clean.
A couple months.
Okay. Going back to the boat incident, anybody on that boat really have a hard on for Paul that you would think would come after him or know of any direct?
So there is footage of, I think, the police car or body cam of the boating night incident that I'd seen on a documentary on Peacock. I highly recommend it, guys. But pretty much the boyfriend of Mallory Beach, and Mallory is a victim who died in that boating accident. He was so angry at Paul that night. Like, he was basically saying, keep that POS away from me, blah, blah, blah. And remember, for those who know this, the other friends in that boat were begging Paul, let me drive. You can't drive. And he was just, hitting people, hitting girls, just a complete mess, drunk and all that. So I definitely think that Alec is going to, he had this pre-planned, and to use that boating incident as sort of like, it must be this.
Threats from people on the boat?
I don't know of any direct threats between any of the people on the boat specifically, but I do think there's been a small amount of yip yap between a couple of them, but not recently.
Okay.
And most of this was stuff from people that Paul didn't really know.
Okay.
It was some people that he knew distantly, but more times than not, when I learned about it, it was somebody that he didn't know.
Okay.
It's like, for example, he went out in Charleston a couple months ago, came back, he got a black eye. And, he can't defend himself right now because he has these charges. So, Paul was a real tough man's man.
Mm-hmm.
He would just...
He would defend himself, but he hadn't been.
That's right. But
how was he handling?
And from what I know about Paul is, even though he was in trouble because of this boating incident, I still feel like if somebody gave him a black eye, and again, I don't know him personally, but just exactly how even Alex just said, he's a man's man, I just feel like if there was a black eye incident, there would be some sort of fight back, or there would at least be him documenting it for legal action or something. So it'll be interesting to know if there really was a history of this black eye or a record of it. Or is Alec just lying?
case looming over everybody?
As far as what?
How was he handling it?
I've never been prouder of him than the way he has handled the pressures and the adversity in that situation. I think I've told Danny that before.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Paul is a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful kid. He can do almost anything. He gets along with almost anybody.
Do y'all store any weapons out here?
We don't store them, but they're frequently out here.
Mm-hmm.
I need to find out if there were any out here because I know there was a shotgun. There was a 12-gauge shotgun.
With Canva, we brainstormed together on
Here. I'll have to find out exactly when that was. I think it got put up, but I'm not positive.
What did that shotgun look like?
It was a camouflage. I want to say it was a Benelli or maybe a Beretta. I can't remember which brand it is.
So yeah, I have the court pulled up on another tab, guys. I don't know. I wanted to get through this interview, but it looks like court hasn't even started yet. So let me just continue this, and I might switch it to the court scene when they show up. If not, I'm just going to get through this with you guys, okay?
But I don't think it was out here
Okay.
recently. But I'm not positive.
And the shotgun that you had when deputies pulled up, where did that come from?
I went to the house and I got a gun. Probably overreacting, but.
And was that when you pulled up and saw them?
So he grabs the gun, probably overreacting, but why would he think it's overreacting if he was, in fear for his life that day? Or, a couple hours ago on this day. It's like he wanted it to be on record for the 911 call, but then now that he's in person talking to the detective, he's trying to downplay it, like probably overreacting. It's like, which is it? He can't even make up which narrative he's going with grabbing the gun, He's playing like the detective and was playing the 911 operator.
No, I came out and I called 911 first.
Mm-hmm.
Talked to them for a little while, and then I told her.
You told her
that I was going to go to the house.
Okay.
And that I would let authorities know when they got here that I had a gun.
Okay.
That I was going to go to the house.
Okay.
And that I would let authorities know when they got here that I had a gun.
Okay.
Probably overreacting, but recently. But I'm not positive.
And the
Good
shotgun
morning,
that
Doug.
you had when deputies pulled up, where did that come from?
I went to the house and I got a gun. Probably overreacting, but.
And was that when you pulled up and saw them?
No, I came out and I called 911 first.
Mm-hmm.
Talked to them for a little while, and then I told her.
You told her
that I was going to go to the house.
Okay.
And that I would let authorities know when they got here that I had a gun.
And that part, I guess it could be debatable. He's on 911. Authorities are on their way. They have their own guns. But yet he's still feeling the need that he needs a gun himself. It's just kind of like the other thing that I kind of brought up to my fiance, and I want to know your guys' opinions. Like, if I'm in a state, like the scene that he walked up on, the last thing I'm thinking, and again, this is just my opinion. Everyone reacts differently, but I want to know your guys' opinion on this. I would be so apart and just a mess. I wouldn't even care if the shooter was still around. Like, come get me at that point. You just killed my significant other and you just killed my youngest son. Like, I'm dead at that point. Like, in that moment, like obviously you'd want to carry on with your life, but most in that moment, this is what, 3 hours since this incident had happened. And he's thinking like, I want to protect myself. And I get that. That's the thing, is this whole thing is just my opinion, how I would react. But I'm not on the phone with 911 thinking like, oh my gosh, I need to go get a gun to protect myself. Like, it's just, my life is over. I don't care if they came back and came up behind me at that point. It's just like, I'm calling 911, whatever happens, happens. But for him, he needs it on record on the 911 call. I got to go get my gun. And, he wants to make sure that the police know that he's going to have a gun on him, which is the right thing to do. It's just interesting to see how he's reacting here, and then later he's talking about grabbing the gun and he's like probably overreacting. But you were so scared and so adamant that, you had to go get it while you're on the phone with 911. It just seems way too played out and manipulative.
Okay. Do you happen to have a list of all your guns?
I can make one. I don't have one, but I can make one.
Okay. Well, I'm just saying, so we could compare if that shotgun was out here and now it's missing.
Absolutely.
And that's the thing too, Glenjamin, is like, it's just another piece to this puzzle. Like, okay, he just leaves them and runs to the house. Now it's like, so did he change while he was at the house? But he's like told 911 that he's just grabbing the gun. Like, where did he go to grab that gun? Does anyone know?
Absolutely.
Try to figure that out.
No, absolutely.
And I know living out here in the country, you probably have more than one or two.
We do. We probably have 20, 25 guns.
Yeah. Shotguns, rifles.
Pistols.
Any rifles?
Yes, sir.
What kind of rifles?
All kinds.
Yeah.
All kinds. I mean, you name it, across the board, we have them.
Okay.
And I mean, all of them we have are, in a hunting room.
And like I said, they're trying to say that some casings that were found on their property match the imprints and stuff found on the crime scene bullets. So they're linking the murder weapons to guns that they owned. And thank you, Doug. He said his son's room, like when he went to go grab the gun while he's on that 911 call, I think it was his son's gun. Yes, I think it was 2. And I think he changed into the white shirt because there was blood on it, but yet he grabbed them to give them, tried to give them. Yeah, why didn't he? I mean, I guess it's sort of obvious Paul was not savable, but at the same time, like, wouldn't you try everything? Yeah, and he put the wrong bullet. He put 16 gauge in there or something. Yeah. So what was the point of that? Why did he put in the wrong size ammo? What type of, I don't know. What do you guys make of that? There was something else. Oh yeah. So I don't know if you guys remember this aspect of the Watts case, but when Chris is being interrogated by CBI Special Agent Tammy says to him, like, because they're going down the avenue at this point in the case that Shanann killed the girls, so he had to kill Shanann. And she says, did you try to call why didn't you call 911? Even if your child's head is missing, you would still try to revive them. And they use that example and it always stuck with me. So here we're in this case and we're wondering, he's so pristine, this and that. And Paul was found face down, laying on his arms. Like, did he ever even try and resuscitate him? Or, what's going on as far as the wife? Like, was she ever tried to be brought back to life? Doesn't seem so.
In our house.
What was their schedule today? When did they get home?
My son works for my brother, and he was coming home to deal with the sunflowers. He got here. He got here pretty early because he and I rode around looking at everything for a good little while, probably 45 minutes to an hour. Maggie had things she did in Charleston, and she had a doctor's appointment in Charleston, and she got back here. It was fairly late.
Was it dark yet when Paul got home?
No, Paul got home early.
Early, okay. So before dinner time? Before
Oh, yes, ma'am.
lunchtime? Or?
No, ma'am.
What brother does Paul work for?
John Marvin.
And what does Paul do for him?
Everything.
Just handyman.
Yes, sir.
Our lazy boy furniture knows a lot about us.
I can't see it through StreamYard, but it seems that Shay gifted membership. So thank you so much, Shay. I really appreciate you. I appreciate all you guys being here. And if you were gifted a membership, it would mean a lot to me if you would extend it after the month is up. But either way, I'm happy you're here. And all I ask is you guys just like my videos and chat with me. And thank you so much, Shay. I really appreciate you.
For Maggie to feed the dogs this time of night or check on them?
Oh, no. I mean, she played with those dogs all the time. And it's especially common for her to, she's been gone for a while, to come and let especially two of them out to run.
And notice how he's using the phrases like especially common. Like just very overselling it, very like want to sell you the story as being true, especially common, instead of just being like, she came out here often, and just like put his hand in his head, his hands crying, but it's just like, he's got to go the extra mile and really sell it.
Okay, so she pretty regularly comes out here in the evenings?
Very regularly.
Okay.
She comes out here a lot.
Do you have any cameras on your property?
I have deer cameras, but none, around up here.
Where are they at?
On different deer stands.
Okay, so deep in the woods.
Well, not necessarily deep in the woods. Some of them are in fields and.
Okay.
But there's none that, are near here.
Okay.
What doctor did Maggie see today?
I forget the guy's name. Maggie's been having trouble with her. She's been having trouble with her stomach and her tooth. I'm not positive. It was sort of a routine visit, and I can't remember. She told me the name of him, and I want to say Gordine.
Okay.
Is who I think she saw.
So was she back home around supper time? Or 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock?
I don't think she got back quite that early. I think she got back a little bit later than that.
Okay. What did you do today? Were you at the office or?
Nope, I was home. I came home. Paul and I messed around. I was up at the house. I laid down, took a nap on the couch, probably, 25, 30 minutes. I got up, I called Maggie, didn't get an answer, and I left to go to my mom's. She had said she might ride with me, but she normally doesn't when I go over there. And I think I texted her. And she's very good about answering the phone, so that was odd, or calling me back. So that was odd, but it wasn't that big a deal.
Now, what time was that?
what time was what?
That you sent her a text message.
All right. I texted her at 9:08, going to check on M, be right back. And then I texted her at 9:47. That must be when I started to come back. I think I called her before that, but let me make sure. Pretty sure that I called her 9:45. And then I tried Paul. And then, no, I think that was riding. I think that might have been riding over there.
It's like he's like realizing that his timeline is not adding up, or, you know, is kind of a little shaky, in my opinion, at this part. CDT says, and good morning, does anyone know how long his trial is expected to last? Somebody said something about they think it's going to last longer than 3 weeks, but I don't know if they've given an estimate about, you know, the exact length, but not sure. Does anyone know?
10:03. I mean, my calls are right here.
Yeah.
So, obviously this is when I, at 10:06.
Is anyone else confused why we're not just getting a clear answer right now, like about what times he tried to call her, Maggie? I'm just very confused. He's like all over the place here. Well, I got my calls right here. Yeah, so list off to us the times and all that. It's just like he's like beating around the bush or something.
Can I help you?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. There you go.
Anybody else want some gum?
No, sorry.
And isn't it funny, as soon as we get into like a little bit of a crunch time for the timeline for these detectives, you know, what time did you call Maggie, this and that, you know, he kind of beats around the bush a little bit about the times and the accuracy in that. And yet all of a sudden, you know, he's got to spit and he's got to grab gum. And sometimes people get a little bit of dry mouth when they're lying, or, you know, when they're nervous. Is this gum supposed to kind of help like build saliva up, like his mouth is getting dry? Like, I'm just very curious why that all took place right after, you know, he's being asked about when did you call Maggie, etc.
You don't have any water, do you, Danny? I'm sorry, I don't need it.
And now he's asking for water. No one has it. That's all right. I don't need it. Then why did you just ask for it? Very strange. You just put gum in your mouth too. Why would you need glass of water at this moment, right after popping a piece of gum? Like maybe like 20 minutes down the road of when the gum's starting to get a little bit, yeah. But I don't know. Very strange.
If you behind Danny's head is a case of water.
It's not a big deal.
Yeah, I got some right here.
Oh, well, thank you.
And he knows, being a lawyer, that they get, you know, dry mouth when they're lying and not being truthful or nervous. And so here he's already said it's not a big deal. And he's like, I got it right here for you. okay, thank you. And it's like, buddy, you already like just pretty much sold yourself out for kind of getting a little nervous about like the calls and the timeline and all that. Like, you know, it's just very strange. And like Benjamin said, who drinks water on a fresh piece of gum? It's just very strange. Like of all times to kind of ask for the refreshment, in my opinion.
Thank you, ma'am.
I'm sure we're going to have much more questions.
I'm available to act. You know, you let me know.
What's another number in case I can't get you on your cell?
I don't have a house phone.
Okay.
An office number. I can give you my brother's cell phones.
All right. What's Randy's?
Stay with me
Hey,
while we
Randy's
finish
is
this up, guys, and then we'll end the stream.
943-8881.
I do want you guys to just watch him as he leaves the vehicle.
And John?
Just very odd.
John Marmon's 843-321-5508.
Find yourself in a picture-perfect land.
That is crazy, Doug. When you kill somebody up close and you actually get the smell of blood inside your nose and it stays there for like days. Ew.
And you said your dad's in the hospital?
Yes, sir.
Which hospital? Charleston or
Savannah, Candler, St. Joseph's.
Is he doing okay or what's?
He's having a really, really hard time. He's got a lot going on.
Okay.
You know, he's
Seagate said he already went for the handle. Yeah, he's in a rush to get out of this car.
doing okay, given everything, but he's got a lot going on.
And just these last few minutes, guys, I'm just going to let it play and then we'll close out. What I want you guys to kind of pay attention is to watch his demeanor right now. And then as soon as Buster calls him, watch how his demeanor changes. The other thing I want you to pay attention to is just, you know, him exiting the vehicle. It's just very strange. But thank you all for being here. I'm so glad that you guys watched this with me. I'm obviously going to switch over to the trial and get caught up there. And we'll talk very soon on this. And we're going to keep up with the trial and all that. And good morning, allegedly with Brittany J. Thank you so much for being here. And thank you so much for the super chat. Glad you are covering this one. It took me a minute, you know, because I was wrapped up in the Idaho 4, but I'm realizing, you know what, this is very interesting. It's more interesting than I thought it would be. And my moderator, Karen, had been telling me, like, you need to get into the Murdaugh case. I'm like, I will. I think I told her I will for like, I don't know, 6 months. So here we are.
About Maggie's family, where are they?
Somerville.
Have you been in touch with them tonight?
Contacted, yes. I had my brother call Bart, the wife of his sister, and the husband of Maggie's sister, so that they could go and tell Maggie's parents. I felt like they needed to hear it in person.
Mm-hmm.
And they are going there and calling me. So they must not be there yet.
Maggie's parents in Somerville?
Yes. And her mom just had a knee replacement surgery, and her dad really has trouble getting around nowadays.
Do you have any other children?
I do. I have a 24-year-old.
That's right, you said. What's his name?
Buster. Well, Richard Alexander Jr.
Okay. He goes by Buster.
He goes by Buster.
Is he here tonight?
He's on his way.
Okay. Laura, you got anything?
This one's hard, but when you first saw Paul, you said you tried to flip him over. Was he laying on his back or on his stomach?
Just like he
Just like he
laying
is. So you
on
weren't
his-
able to move him. Okay.
No, ma'am.
Okay. And did he help Maggie a lot out here with the animals?
He helped everybody with everything.
Okay, so it was kind of routine for him to be out here as well in the evening?
This place is his absolute passion.
Okay.
I tried to turn him, and then I checked him, and I think I already knew, but I checked him.
And when you first pulled into the property, did you come from this direction where all our police cars are, or which way did you come in?
I went to the house.
Okay.
And then I came from the house
This way?
straight here. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
I mean, where my vehicle was parked is probably
is where it was. Okay.
Well, no, maybe not exactly, but it was pretty close because I came back the same route.
That's right, because you went back to get your shotgun.
When I came back.
All right. I can't think of anything else right now, but we'll certainly be in touch.
Thank y'all for everything y'all are doing.
Yes, sir. So, just to kind of let you know what's going to go on, we're going to be out here for quite some time. The coroner will take custody of Paul and Maggie.
Watch this, guys. Buster.
Can I answer that?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. What? No, we're finished. Let me come out. Well, I'll be here when he gets here. No, don't let him come up here. Okay, yeah. I think we're about done. All right, thank you. I'm sorry.
Buster, in here. Okay.
Yes, sir. I dropped my card.
We'll get you one.
He can't get out quick enough.
Sorry.
I'll get you one.
Here you go.
Thank you.
Watch him exit.
So the coroner will come over and talk to you. They'll do the autopsy and everything, and then go from there.
Thank you.
But we'll come see you before we leave.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Ms. Rutland.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much.
Here, you want this water?
Oh, yes, please. Thank you.
Yep.
Oh, geez. Alrighty. Let me start over. So I was muted, but not frozen. Okay, so what I said was, thank you, Pizza Chemist, for the pizza fund. Thank you, Allegedly with Brittany J, for the super chat. I was saying, check out her channel. She brings a good take to this case, to all cases as well. I also thanked No Thanks Investigates, Doug, for being here. And I said thank you to CDT for being here and saying that you guys are awesome and you guys bring good content on your own channels, and everyone should check out those channels as well. I also said that I was very surprised to see that a lot of my moderators are really well versed in this case. And I'm just really appreciative of you guys helping the conversation flow along. I also thanked Shay for gifting memberships, and I thanked everyone for joining. So if you joined or were gifted a membership, thank you so much. And that's pretty much it. Let me just turn my camera off so I'm not like frozen. But thanks, guys. I really appreciate you guys. We're going to keep up on the trial. I'm going to get caught up right now. And yeah, you guys just let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Thank you all for being here. And thank you for everyone who donated and for everyone who just liked the stream. I'm so happy that, we all got to talk on this, and it just, it's a crazy case and I'll be following it. So let me just go get caught up on the trial that has been on. They came in a little bit late to the courtroom, but I'm going to go get caught up, and we'll talk very soon, guys. And thanks for being here.